Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money channel. Crypto market up a bit today, guys. Market cap is still hovering above that $1 trillion mark, which is really nice to see. I like seeing the market above 1 trillion. I mean, it's a psychological level, and we have been seeing positive sentiment in the market, so that's good. Bitcoin dominant sitting at 38.6, pretty standard for Bitcoin. And take a look at this, guys. Within the last 24 hours, we have seen a relatively flat market, although some coins have seen some pops, like BNB coin, 4.03%. XRP is up a little bit, 1.28%. We got Dogecoin up 1.48. We've got Matic coin up 12.77%. So, I mean, we always see some outliers here in the space, but by and large, the market is relatively flat still. As I mentioned, XRP was up a little bit. Right now, it's hovering just shy of 46 cents. This is XRP on the daily. Let me throw it on the hourly real quickly here. Not too much to write home about, really. Just chopping sideways so far. Have been seeing this trend play out for about 6 weeks now. Let's bring up Bitcoin real quickly here. We got Bitcoin here on the hourly. Bitcoin trading at 20,200 roughly. Throw it back on the daily real quickly. So Bitcoin still just kind of trending. Again, not too much movement, not too much volume. We really do need to see Bitcoin get above 22.8. And then the next level I'd really like to see it get above is here, which is 25.2. So these are significant levels of resistance that I'd like to see Bitcoin break through and eventually form new support on, hopefully before we see another move to the upside. I'm going to keep moving, guys, because we got some big news with regards to the Ripple SEC case. Another Amicus brief was filed by Cryptillian. They are a payment system, an online digital wallet service for retail customers and commercial retail businesses using XRP, and they've asked to file an amicus brief supporting Ripple's opposition to the SEC's motion for summary judgment. So I think we are now at 11, if I'm not mistaken. Joel Katz down here. Where's the brief? He's dating himself by posting a still from this commercial. If you don't know what it is, look up Where's the Beef. But this is such a lame joke. But that's David. XRP Crypto Wolf saying, I've never heard of them, but I'm loving all this support. XRP Champion saying, agreed, just depends on whether these additional amicus briefs will cause delays or not. Ripple already had a strong case before all of them started submitting these briefs, and still does. So why now? I'm going to read you guys a little bit from this recent amicus brief that was filed. So we are the attorneys for non-party Kryptillian payment systems and submit this letter application pursuant to your honors rules to respectfully request the court's permission to file an amicus brief in support of the defendant's brief. Down here, they say Kryptillian's interest in the case stems from the fact that one of the 6 digital assets that it allows its cardholders to store and transfer to its merchants is the token XRP. Kryptillian has invested significant time, effort, and financial resources to allow the processing of XRP transactions on its platform in a manner that is indistinguishable from normal card purchases. Kryptillian has implemented this using the XRP ledger, blockchain technology, without the knowledge and or assistance from the defendants. The SEC in this action seeks to define XRP as an unregistered security asset and has in fact taken the position in this matter that transfers of XRP, even if not between the defendants, are also violations of the Security and Exchange Act of 1934. And since Kryptillian activated its platform for testing in September of 2021, Kryptillian has processed hundreds of transactions representing tens of thousands of XRP tokens between its cardholders and merchants. In fact, XRP is the second most popular token among Kryptillian's customers. So we are seeing an XRP use case here from a company, namely Cryptillian Payment Systems, utilizing XRP. And I think one of the most important parts to point out here is that they had no assistance from Ripple whatsoever in implementing this type of process. So Michael Branch bringing this up from thecrypticbasic.com, just kind of outlining that fact. And although Cryptillian has no direct partnership with Ripple, the online digital wallet service noted that its interest in the suit stems from the fact that XRP is one of the supported crypto assets, as I had mentioned. Some are worried, though, that this is going to delay. Bill at Balisarius posted this. I get concerned when I see this passage in the letter motion file today. What and how much data will this amicus produce? And how will the SEC have a full and fair opportunity to respond by the 15th of November? I noticed the letter states currently due on November the 15th, or currently due on the 15th. Now, he is referring to this passage in the amicus brief. And guys, I will link the amicus brief in the description of the video if you guys are interested in reading it further. But let me just read you guys this paragraph further. Cryptillian is uniquely positioned to offer the court real-world data on the use case of crypto on a daily basis. by average Americans in non-online retail and service establishments, again in a matter that does not involve or inconsistent with securities-related activities. The SEC will have a full and fair opportunity to respond to Cryptillian's amicus brief in its reply, which is currently due on November the 15th, 2022, and will suffer no prejudice if this request for relief is granted. What Bill is saying here, though, is that he is concerned. How much data are they providing? And what will this mean if the SEC has to pore over it, right? Full and fair opportunity to respond by November the 15th. That means, at least I'm inferring, that an in-depth evaluation of what they are providing, they're going to allow the SEC to evaluate it, obviously. And I guess the bigger point is, how long is this going to take? Bill continues by saying that will soon change if these amicus briefs keep rolling in. Delay incoming, I fear. Van Hasten down here saying, man, this damn amicus briefs should have been limited to John Deaton only, as he asked the court for participation already more than a year ago. Could this be a plan from the SEC to further delay? And tiptoe through the tulips down here, opening up this can of worms, the Kryptillian amicus brief somehow strikes me as an SEC plant. Okay, not suggesting it is, but it is interesting how they are saying, hey, here's what we have in here. Take your time to go over all this data that we are providing you. You have until the 15th, which is 12 days away, but only 8 business days, may I add. So yeah, have at it. Here is an 11th document, an 11th case, an 11th amicus brief for you guys to pore over, and you have 8 business days to go over it. Maybe this will, in fact, trigger the SEC to ask for an extension, and this is what Bill is concerned about. Anyway, an interesting point here. Tom Emmer is exposing the SEC as well. Chairman Gary Gensler's regime at the SEC has been characterized by regulatory hypocrisy and inconsistency. Unacceptable that Gary Gensler doesn't hold himself to the same transparency standards that he places on the private sector. So the SEC is getting nailed at every angle here. Recent reports suggest the SEC officials are using off-channel communication platforms to conduct official business and are failing to comply with federal record-keeping statutes. This coming from House Judiciary GOP. And there's a document down here alleging just that. So I will link this in the description for you guys. I'm just going to read you guys a little bit of this. The SEC must practice the transparency and accountability it preaches. Federal record-keeping laws are vital to informing the public and to Congress's abilities to conduct oversight of the executive branch and independent agencies. To inform our oversight, please provide the following information. And so this is what they're requesting. Certify that the SEC is following all applicable federal record-keeping and transparency requirements. Certify that you have never used a private email account or off-channel communications for official SEC business. Those two, even just reading those first two, I think Gary and co could be in a lot of trouble. Certify that since you're swearing in, you and your direct reports, including all SEC division and official heads and all employees in the chair's office, have never used private email accounts or off-channel communications for official SEC business. Explain how the SEC defines off-channel communications for purposes of responding to FOIA requests and other federal transparency requirements. And 5, explain whether any SEC employees, including yourself, have used off-channel communications to conduct official SEC business. If so, provide a list of all such platforms and all SEC employees who have used off-channel communications for official business. And that is also, let me just bring that back up. That is also due at 5 p.m. November the 15th. So between this latest amicus brief and this report filed by members of Congress, it looks as though the SEC has their work cut out for them. Eleanor Turret just commenting on this as well. According to a former SEC employee, this off-channel communication has been part of agency culture for years. So this all stemmed from a former employee basically saying there's a lot of unofficial communication that goes on within the SEC. And you know what? I'm going to blow the whistle. This person tells me former chairman Jay Clayton was a texter and preferred to use his personal accounts to avoid potential FOIA conflicts. Crypto Law down here saying William Hinman sent this email to a fellow STB partner who had IPO business before CorpFin that same day. So, we've been uncovering a lot of this documentation, but now Congress is noticing and they're calling the SEC on these unethical practices. John Deaton down here saying, isn't that a shock? Not. People need to realize that these people represent the worst of the swamp. They don't forget that they are public servants because they never believed they were or are public servants. They have contempt for the individual investor. It applies to both parties. What needs to be done are congressional hearings where these questions get asked, and when they admit it, 100% prosecute them. When they invoke the fifth, and they will, subpoena phone records and private emails, send an effing message for the future. Let's get this thing cleaned up because cryptocurrency regulatory clarity is hanging in the balance, and it is being affected every single day that we keep waiting. John Deaton also tweeted this out. Will Congress do their job? Well, it looks as though Congress is doing their job. Is there an inquiry? I know that thousands of messages were sent asking for a letter of inquiry, just asking if the Hinman speech was officially screened and approved by SEC ethics. Congressman Davidson asked the question directly to the SEC enforcement director at the last hearing, but he refused to answer, claiming he couldn't talk about it because it was being litigated. That answer is 100% misleading and not true. The question must be answered now and can't be avoided. First, it wasn't true. Whether the Hinman speech was screened and approved by SEC ethics was never litigated. Only email drafts and comments about the speech were being litigated. Regardless, the issue is a moot point. The judge ruled that the emails and drafts have been turned over. The motion for summary judgment are in, and nowhere does the ethics question get raised, proving it wasn't being litigated. Regardless, it isn't being litigated anymore. The SEC didn't appeal the judge's ruling. Gary Gensler and the SEC enforcement director can't give you an answer again. John Deaton goes on. It's a fairly lengthy tweet thread down here, but it is a really good read. I suggest you guys read it if you're interested in this kind of thing. Anyway, wanted to thank John Deaton, Eleanor Turret, of course, Tom Emmer, Bill at Belisarius, just for posting that. Winding this back around to Ripple and XRP, guys, I saw this from Stéphane Hubert. Ironic, isn't it? The SEC wants to streamline liquidity rules. Funds should not hold more highly liquidity assets. Hey, Gary Gensler, something like ODL from Ripple would be quite helpful here, wouldn't it? Sometimes the whole thing really seems almost scripted, doesn't it? Now, Stéphane Hubert is posting this, okay, from just yesterday, November the 2nd. The SEC has now proposed enhancements to an open-end fund liquidity framework. So they are, in fact, looking for liquidity. Let me read you guys some of this. The SEC today voted to propose amendments to better prepare open-end funds for stress conditions and to mitigate dilution of shareholders' interests. The rule-informed amendments would enhance how funds manage their liquidity risks, require mutual funds to implement liquidity management tools, and provide for more timely and detailed reporting of fund information. So looking to manage liquidity risks for shareholders and require mutual funds to implement liquidity management tools. All things, ironically, that ODL can handle, but, of course, the SEC has decided to sue Ripple. So, I mean, it's kind of difficult to implement something that is before the courts at the moment. This goes on to say a defining feature of open-end funds is the ability for shareholders to redeem their shares daily in both normal times and times of stress. The SEC, Gary Gensler said, open-end funds, though, have an underlying structural liquidity mismatch. This can raise issues for investor protection, our capital markets, and the broader economy. We saw such systemic issues during the onset of the bear flu, when many investors sought to redeem their investments from open-end funds. Today's proposal addresses these investor protection and resiliency challenges. Currently, open-end funds, other than money market funds and most exchange-traded funds, are required to classify the liquidity of their investments in 4 categories, ranging from highly liquid to illiquid. The proposal seeks to improve these fund liquidity classifications by establishing new minimum standards for classification analysis, including some that incorporate stressed conditions, and by updating the liquidity categories to limit the extent of a fund's investment in securities that do not settle within 7 days. I mean, considering they're framing it as such a problem, it is a bit of a farce that there is a 16,000-pound elephant in the room that could solve for this. These changes are designed to help better prepare funds for stress conditions and prevent funds from overestimating the liquidity of their investments. Now pay attention to this. Affected funds would also be required to maintain a minimum amount of highly liquid assets of at least 10% of net assets to help manage stressed conditions and heighten redemption levels. These funds would publicly report certain information about their liquidity profiles to improve the availability of information about liquidity risks for investors, as well as information about use of liquidity classification service providers. To Stéphane Hubert's point, something like ODL from Ripple would be truly helpful, but crypto regulation in the United States has been put back a couple of years because of this specific lawsuit, and likely the fraud and collusion that the SEC is perpetrating. You don't have to take it from me. Take it from former SEC branch chief Lisa Braganca. She was just interviewed on Tony Edwards' podcast, Thinking Crypto. Another great find here from Stéphane Hubert. Oh boy, Bill Hinman and Joseph Lubin, you are in trouble. Listen to what she says here about her former employer.
The other tokens are in limbo. So what do you think happened here with Bill Hinman and that whole debacle?
Boy, that is a tough one. I really don't know how that shakes out in terms of ethics. It, I really can't comment on the ethics, though. I
Right.
don't know. I'm glad that, that it's being looked into, and hopefully we will get better answers from that inquiry.
Oh, ouch! Lisa Braganca questioning the ethics from her former employer, the SEC. Now, she was a former SEC branch chief, and considering she's no longer employed by the SEC, she can at least speak out and tell us that. I think it's a good indication, too, of how the SEC views this particular situation. Louis XRP down here saying, I wonder if Charles Hoskinson still thinks that this is all a wild conspiracy theory. Facts keep coming out. I mean, it's not the entire SEC. Nobody said so, but ignoring it is just not right either. So Charles, care to speak out? I personally think the writing is on the wall for the SEC, and guys, hopefully we'll find a resolution to this sooner rather than later, and I'm going to keep my eye on the Kryptillian brief, see how that all plays out. You think we'll see more delays? Tell me down in the comments what you guys think, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.